everybody. Good morning, good day, good afternoon if you're on the East Coast. Welcome to Yoga with Simone. I'm Simone and I'm going to be leading a YIN practice today. Just going to test out all that matters in the way of sound. Okay. I think that will be better. I've just turned the sound up. So before I get started with important information, I just want to make sure that we can hear. I think that will be better. Yeah. And if you're joining live, feel free to say hi. And feel free to get the things that you need for our practice today. So a couple of things. If you're working with a playlist, the link is in the chat. It can also be found in Spotify, and my handle name is my friend Simone, all one word. And it's today's date. It's the first playlist up and ready for Sunday, January 10th. It's kind of nice to have a playlist for YIN because there's a lot of space in our practice. And it's kind of nice to be able to lose yourself with the support of music. If you are working with props, actually you should be working with props. I'll rephrase that. 2 blocks for practice. If you don't have 2 blocks, you can makeshift stuff. 2 towels rolled up. Or in my case, I'm going to use this kind of bolstery thing, a neck roller, that will suffice for today. But ideally, if you're not on the move like I'm on the move, you can use 2 blocks, and that's the best support for our practice today. And we're going to get started in about 5 minutes with our practice. You can either lay down and just enjoy where you're at and enjoy the bit of ease and pause before we get started. Or you can get your things ready, including your water, your tea, or your props. And I'm going to just pull back the sound for a beat, but I will return with sound. And we'll get started in about 5 minutes. Come on. We're going to practice with Puppy today. I think I got her figured out in terms of being fenced in and not able to disturb or run off. We're going to practice with Puppy today. All right, guys, we're about 2 minutes away. I have my playlist ready and my headphones or my earphones. Sweet playlist curated for today's YIN. If you're lucky like me and able to be outside, then hopefully you're taking advantage of that. And if you're inside and it's a little cooler where you are, just trying to warm up the space for yourself. One of the things with our practice today, which I wanted to just mention, is it's all about really almost getting inside of the pause, inside of the quiet of the practice, if you're newer to YIN or if you are challenged by YIN. So it's usually at that point where we kind of want to leave the pose, or we're figuring out that we need something else to do. It's usually at that point that you want to actually recommit to the stillness and to the pause and to the quiet of the pose. So just that little bit of insight in case that's helpful for committing to our practice today, because as you commit to the YIN and the practice as it is meant to unfold today, not on any other day, that's where you start to, hi Jody, that's where you start to get the little pockets of insight that are just helpful. It's in the quiet space. Right, Bella? All right, we are going to lie down. As you go to lie down, just bring your devices with you if you're playing the music. And I'm going to count down our music to begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, and press play. And as you lie down, just finding space on your back body. So that you can really commit to the support of your back body landing to the mat. Not to get too heady about it, but just to think about the gift of that, right? We're used to mobilizing ourselves, holding ourselves up, literally. And so what's it like to just surrender to what's underneath your back body and let it have your back? I'm going to stay here for just a little bit more time, the duration of this song, if you're with the playlist. So if you can find these little pockets of rest in your body, and I mean in the jaw, in the eyes, in the heavy of the heart. And take one more inhale through the nose. And a slow but steady exhale out. And you're going to step the soles of the feet onto the mat. And just kind of wave the knees a little bit left to right or right to left. But not so much that you can commit to movement, but so that you can feel the sweet ease. Almost the spaces in between the movement. And it's a very loose massage of your lower back and hips. And the slower you move, the sweeter the massage. And take 2 more breaths here as you do this. And as you feel for the impact. Remember, the slower and the steadier the move, the more you'll be able to land with what you feel. And when you bring your knees back up to center and the soles of your feet onto the mat, bring your soles of the feet together and the knees wide. So your feet are like prayer hands. Your knees fall open wide and you get into Badakanasana in the legs and the sweetness of your inner thighs just falling into that surrender state. Take a pause here. And the pause is so that you can literally feel your open knees and maybe turn your palms up to face the sky and feel that sweet external rotation of your shoulders and a more open chest body. And it's because you commit to be still for at least a few breaths that you get to see what this posture is doing for you today, right now, even if you know it super well. And then I just want you to lift your head a little bit and either put your right hand or your right wrist behind your head. And just feel a bit of space open up through your right armpit and even your right elbow. And the way you commit to your knees being heavy and wide, I want you to commit to your right elbow being heavy and open and resting towards the ground, towards the support. If you're pretty open, this will feel pretty okay to you. You'll be able to really take advantage of these broad strokes of breath in and out through the nose, across your upper right side, and down through your leg body to your inner thighs. And just notice if your right hand or your right wrist are tensed up at all. Can they soften underneath the weight of your head? And then you're going to slowly bring your right knee up to the sky. keeping your left leg where it is. So there's a half Badakanasana with your left leg. And then as your right knee looks up to the sky, slowly wave your right knee to the left so that you can create a very smooth transition into a spinal twist, keeping your right hand behind your head. And pay attention to the quiet and the stillness here and all that is revealed from that place. Maybe the pose gets to settle a little more. Maybe the glutes of your body and your thighs start to soften a little more. Maybe your right side body starts to feel a little longer. And in that space, in that long space, can you feed it with a little more breath? Maybe you notice how the right knee falls a little heavier and closer towards the left leg. If you're fighting this at all, it's not happening for you, you could slip a prop in between your legs to support the rest of the journey here. And then just keep savoring the breath into the right side of the body, into the twist, into the upper space of the torso, into the eye of the armpit. And commit to another 4 to 5 breaths, maybe 4 to 6 in your body. And with those full breaths in and out through you, just noticing how you can soften through the expression in the face. Maybe how you can soften through the drop of the tongue in the mouth. I'm going to take one more deep breath in and just feel the belly kind of load up like a balloon. Maybe hold it a beat as you get to the top. And then exhale out the mouth. And take your right knee up so you can put the right sole of the foot onto the mat. And then I want you to slowly keep opening the right knee down towards the right side of your mat so that you take a full butterfly pose until it sets down. And you might notice that your left knee is a little way heavier than the right knee, having more time to have been in that place. Nothing you need to do about the things you notice. You can just breathe in and breathe out. Release your hand or your wrist from underneath your head. You might feel a little tingling through the fingers and the body of the hand. You can stretch out your fingers and move them around. And then bring your left wrist or left hand underneath your head. And you might notice real differences here, depending on how you use your body throughout your everyday life, or whether you're moving through a bit of injury. Maybe just things are different from side to side. No explanation as we know it, but can you just feel for what's there, respect it with a breath in and out. And trying to surrender to the heaviness of the left elbow. If you're really challenged by that, you could prop something underneath it, or you could just trust to breathe into the space of gravity, and eventually we'll just keep meeting it there. I'm going to bring your left knee up, so you're in a half Badakanasana on your right side. Left sole of the foot to the mat, left knee looking straight up, and then breathe in here. And slowly bring the left knee over to the right to find this slow twist. Totally okay, even expected that things are going to feel super different, almost foreign, as you trade off from side to side. Just staying here for a few breaths in and out. Maybe even closing your eyes. Trying to feel really sweetly all the little pockets of space that are opening on your left side, and anything that you're negotiating to release into that. Sometimes it's purely physical, and sometimes it's purely emotional. A lot of times it's both. And as we stay committed to the pose, you get to notice all the little changes unfolding. In my case, I'm feeling a little more open on that left shoulder and through the eye of the armpit. Things started off kind of tense in a way, kind of tight. But as I stayed committed, and hopefully as we stay committed, things change. Can you pay attention to the change? Can you soften that left hand or wrist behind your head? Can you feel the weight of your head to that space? Can you receive it? And then follow the line of energy, the line of breath on your left side from your torso and the top of your torso, down and across your left side and your ribs and lungs. into this subtle twist for about 2 more breaths. And before we move, just acknowledge this final breath and this final bit of space in your body here. And maybe as you acknowledge how your body feels, you're noticing all the world around you. It's a busy Sunday, right? Planes, dogs, sweet air, sweet birds. Take a deep breath in and drop into your sweet life, your sweet body, your sweet breath. Breath out. I'm going to pick up the left knee very slowly, almost like it's moving through thick honey. That's usually how I like to think about it when I move in yin. And as the left knee looks up to the sky, left sole of the foot onto the mat, pause for just a half a beat or so. And then continue to open the left knee to the left for a full expression of Badakanasana. And you just might feel for how your knees are even to the openness here. And take one more breath in. And a slow breath out. You're going to remove your left hand. And your left wrist. And lay your arms alongside your body and make your palms be up so that you can stay open to receiving. Deep breath in and out. Take your hands to your outer knees, thighs. Try and close your knees like a book. Feel that land. It's a really important gesture to be in a pause as you get out of a pose that you've been holding for a bit of time. And so you might feel a little gentle ache on your inner thighs. You may feel the setting of your feet to the mat. Whatever it is, feel for it all. And then a little light wave, right to left or left to right. Just to feel almost a sweet conversation of your lower back and your hips. And to feel the landing of your upper back and your shoulder blades onto the mat. And take one more breath in and out with the light wave of your knees from one side to the other. And come back up to center on the knees. Hug your knees in towards your chest, wrapping your arms or putting your hands to your knees, and a light pull in to elongate the lower spine. And feel a bit of space in the sacrum body as you pull on your legs or knees. Breathe in and out. And then take one leg at a time up to the sky, putting your hands on your thighs with your fingers looking up towards your knees. Try and be aware of your ankles on top of your sit bones, so they're not too far forward or too far back. You could track a line of energy on top of your sit bones, which is essentially just in line with your hip creases too. Some people like the hands on the thighs, just as a kind of template of support. The other option is palms down on the ground, arms long. Your legs are mostly long without you kind of stressing them out to be straight. So it's a natural showing of legs long. You don't need to lock your knees. And at the same time, there's a bit, not too much, but a bit of effort to have straighter legs rather than a deep bend. If you're feeling really challenged by this, you could always put your legs up against a wall. So you would do whatever you need to do to move your bum and your seat really close to a wall, and then just rest your legs long up against the wall, so that you could take some of the effort out of this. And then you could relax, even though it's a bit challenging, to the sweetness of your feet being suspended in space. And although subtle, it is an inversion. So just feeling for how that turns things upside down. Could be physical, it could be emotional as well. It could be both. Just keep coming back to your breath, because I know it will get challenging, especially in the quiet of our body and in the quiet of our mind. There's all these little things that like to fight for our attention. And as big and as purposeful as they may be in your life and in your world, I just want you to be okay about carving out space for this very simple moment of breath and body. It's completely natural to feel sweet tingles in the feet as you send the blood flow down in the opposite direction, right? As you shift the oxygen flow, it's going to impact the body. So just allowing for that to be the case. I'm going to stay for about another 30 seconds. If you want to add on and bring the arms overhead long, almost like you do a backstroke in. Any tightness that occurs in the body might bring about a sweet little shake. I refer to it as singing, a singing of the body. Try not to fight it, but to embrace it with breath. It'll settle down a bit. One more inhale. And big exhales. And if you have your arms overhead, you want to slowly bring them forward. And put your hands on your thighs, fingers looking up to the knees. And just really slowly, so you can savor this, bend one leg at a time. Whew. Keep a bend in the legs and the feet kind of hanging out, with the heels almost resting up against your thighs. And then one foot at a time gets onto the mat, maybe with the help of your hands. Land that. Be respectful of the landing by hanging out here for a big breath in and out. You can peek your head up. And then you can use your elbows and try and ground your body by putting your weight on your forearms and elbows as you peek your heart and head up. And take yourself to a sit. And maybe just walk your bum back so that you can sit up with a tall spine and long legs. Just feel for what it is to sit. Sit up, lengthen the spine. If you've got your props nearby, you want to grab those props. You might put your blocks standing up in between your legs. They won't go this high necessarily, right? Although they could. Or you might layer your blocks on top of your thighs. And then I just want you to walk your sit bones back, almost like your sit bones are feet, and you inch your heart forward. And you're just going to fold your body in a real rounding into a forward fold. And you're going to layer your blocks either on your thighs or in between your thighs so that you can have a little bit of support perhaps underneath your forehead, unless you're like me and you just want to hang out heavy and round in and let go. I like to take the meeting of my body into the space of gravity and just let that unfold really slow and steady. In a seated forward fold for yin, we're giving ourselves over to the rounding of the spine and the heaviness of the head and neck body. And target area will show up across the whole of your back body as you give into this. And then also into your hamstrings. If your hamstrings are super tight and you feel like that's what's getting into the way of things being into a release, you can always create a micro bend in the knees. And you could also take your towel prop or something cushiony underneath your knees and thighs so that you release any kind of effort in the lengthening of legs. Feel free to try on for maybe another beat or two systems of support, whether it's a prop blocks underneath your forehead or head, or whether it's a prop underneath your thighs and kind of behind your knees. And then commit to the very stillness that will tell you so much about what you need here. Trusting in the quiet of your body being still, in the quiet of your mind letting go and focusing just on inhale and exhale, and in the quiet of your heart receiving the sweetness of a peaceful practice. Even in a busy world. The busy world could be all that's around us in this given moment, or all that we're aware is around us in the bigger story. We still have the right to a peaceful, peaceful practice. You might notice more space opening up, the ability for your chin to feel a little more heavy, the ability for your head to release a little more into that space. And that may signature more space and even more heat into the neck body, into the spine. Can you trust in the wisdom of your body and breath to have your back here? Travel through 5 more breaths. Super slow inhales and even longer exhales. If there's still those pockets of resistance, feed the exhale into that body part, into that pocket. It's amazing how the breath can massage its way into the pose and into those pockets of tension or tightness and resistance. Three more breaths together. When we exhale, can you feel the fold take on a little more shape? Whatever support you have underneath your head, it could be even just the layering of your arms. Slowly just kind of peek your head up a little bit. And try and put your hands to either side of your leg. And with the support of your hands grounding to the mat, just roll up kind of slow, like you're stacking your vertebrae slowly on top of one another. Until you become a really tall version of yourself to sit on your sit bones and ground those sit bones down to lengthen your spine. It's okay to feel ache. Just acknowledge this sit for one more breath in and out. And then if you have a prop underneath your thighs or behind your knees, you'll want to release that prop. And we'll lie back down, not completely flat back, but more of a neutral spine. So that we can return to this space and just feel. And so as we went in one direction with the spine, after this little set of Shavasana, we'll go in the other direction. We'll try and set up for a really sweet supported bridge pose. So step the soles of the feet onto the mat. That should alleviate any kind of tingle or sensation in the lower back. You can feel for that and just enjoy that setting of the feet to the mat and just breathe into your lower back and breathe out. And then you're going to take your prop. If you're using a block, it could be at the lowest height, but it could also be at a medium height. And then you're going to lift your bum by pressing into your feet. Sneak your bum up so that you can take your prop and slide it underneath your sacrum. And if you're working with a towel, you might do 2 towels, or if you're working kind of with one prop like I am, you might just fold it in a way to get a bit of height. And out of that supported bridge, you might get a ton of height with your prop or a little bit of height. And just surrendering to your hips being more up, pushing into space. You want to take as much lift in your hips as feels good in your lower back, but also into the hips. And if your legs can be long to get a little deeper into that, you can do that. And if that's too much, you pull it back and you do a bend in the legs with the soles of the feet to the mat. Well, a lot of you guys with the props of blocks and a nice buffer will get pretty high through the hips. Feel free to enjoy that space. And for those that are working with smaller props like myself today, also feel free to enjoy what your shape is. It could be subtler. And you'll feel a kind of push of the hip creases, not only wider, but also up towards your ceiling or sky. And as that space opens up, it provides a really nice massage into that lower belly, but also across the digestional tract. And in many ways, for a lot of us, where we hold a lot of emotional stuckness. So it's completely natural that you'll start to feel the kind of movement or flow, maybe even of your blood flow, your oxygen, or just even those gurgling spots that are really just releasing with ease. And for the last little bit of time, if it suits you and you have a couple of props, you could layer a second prop underneath to get your bum even higher, which would kind of look like this with the support of a block. Or you might adjust and bring it down a notch if it feels like something that you can't do for your body today. Or you just might go back to where you were. You need to be able to breathe in and out without hitting a wall, without hitting a wall of tension or stress in the body. And then try as you may to really savor the very slow journey of your breath in and out. And then we'll breathe together for 2 more breaths. Really letting the exhales feed the heaviness of your sacrum body onto your prop. However low your body is to the ground, or however high you've propped it up. Deep inhale. And sighing out. If your legs are long, to get out of this, you want to move slow and bend the legs. And if you've got 2 props underneath your sacrum, you want to sneak 1 prop out, land on your first prop, and then sneak the other prop out. And come down to your sacrum on the mat flat. Slow and steady. Keep a bend in the legs as you come down, sacrum to the mat flat. And just feel that, respect that landing, deep breath in and out. And it may be okay for you to rock and roll into your seat. And swing your legs. And eventually get into a sit. And we're going to turn around and make our way into a downward face dog. The downward dog should feel pretty juicy through the lower spine. And from here, you're going to step your feet just underneath your hip creases. And with a shorter down dog, press into the fingertips and stretch your bum and your sit bones back so that you could imagine your sit bones resting up against a wall. If it's hard for you to get into your fingertips, you can always put props underneath your hands so that you lift your hands off the mat and create more foundation to press your hips up and back in a shorter downward face dog, which also looks like a wider forward fold. Walk your hands to your feet now. Micro bend your legs. Make sure your feet are at least hip width distance as you do this so you can support the fold here. And as you micro bend your legs, and I mean micro bend, hang super heavy, 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 heavy through the head. Much like that forward fold in our seat with that rounded spine, you're going to target a lot of the areas, the same areas here. But you might feel like it's more accessible or more challenging to be in this version of a forward fold, the one standing on your feet. Whatever shows up for you, just breathe into it and breathe out from it. You might sway a little bit, and I mean a little bit of weight into the heels. You might just very lightly tuck your chin in to elongate your neck and leave that hanging there. You'll feel all of the pressure in your feet to stand here. And you'll feel all of the rush to the crown of the head. And you might just slightly look to the right with your gaze and your chin. And then you might just slightly look to the left with your gaze and your chin. And let that propel you into a heavier state of the head hanging heavy and the fold being more submissive. Letting go, letting go. And just 3 more breaths here. Feeding the exhales into the upper torso and back body so that you can release out of that ache. So it's almost like the bones just hang a little heavier, spacing out between each bone. Breathing life into the space, into the ligaments, into the fascia. And take one more breath in. And you can part your lips or hum and haw your sigh or whatever feels good to let it go. Maybe with the hands supported ahead of you onto the mat or onto your props if you can't reach the mat. Just kind of lightly heel toeing or toe heeling the feet a little wider. And as you get the feet maybe mat width distance, fan the toes out and the heels in and start to bend the legs. And sit the bum down into that space of Malasana squat. And try and elongate your spine and pick up your head to gaze forward. And just rest into this squat and take about 2 or 3 more breaths. A practice of mostly the same shape, repeated over and over, just from different points of view. So we started with that butterfly pose, and then we created a variation of that butterfly pose. And then we end up almost in this same shape here. And we had our legs long. And then we had them long again in a forward fold. And then in a standing forward fold. But how did that differ from one shape to a next with the point of view. The point of view of body, the point of view of perception, literally, the point of view of breath. You can put your hands to prayer, you can hang them wide. Take a few more breaths here. A lot of us will need support of hands behind so that we can get out of this squat safely, putting our bum down. One leg at a time goes long. You might even need to help your leg with your hand. It's totally cool. And then lying down on your back body for a final Shavasana. And checking out the point of view. Maybe making no decisions or judgments about it, but just acknowledging what's there. And then committing to this space for a bit of time. And relaxing your feet and relaxing your calves. Maybe the ask of that allowed you to roll your big toes a little heavier and more open towards the sides of your mat. And maybe with that bit of relax, your thighs and your glutes softened a little wider to the mat. And then hopefully your lower back sets in and drops in and leaves this idea of needing to be tense and holding yourself up. And then you surrender your belly, a little juicy, a little jelly-like, sweetness and softness there. And your ribs and your lungs, like sweet layers that could peel off one at a time from encasing things. They let go. And cross your upper chest and shoulders and into the back of the head, heavy to the mat, to echo a feeling of ease into the jaw and eyes. Sweet dreams, everybody. I hope you feel restful in your body and, more importantly, in your heart. Namaste.